This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for therapy. If you are experiencing mental distress, please seek professional help.
And I hope that you will remember me well, 'cause I'm really not sure if it's heaven or hell. And you never could stomach stories we tell. And now can't spare the water for a wish from the well. We are all simple miracles. We are all simple miracles.
Welcome to the Wellness Project Podcast. I am your host, Wilson. Each episode aims to bring mental health awareness through exploring psychoeducation, scholarly literature, professional interviews, and the personal stories of people's journey to mental wellness. So, with that said, let's get started.
So go line your pockets with anything gold. 'Cause what good is a conscience if it can't be sold? And we are all simple miracles.
Luckily, I'm a guy that knows how to talk into a microphone.
That's true.
There's plenty of experience.
Yeah, it's always been something where, like before I do these, I'm like, make sure that your mouth is on the microphone. Like you can't be talking.
Yeah,
back
some
here.
people are like, well, let me tell you a story about how everybody's going.
Yeah, it's usually like the story's really good, but I'm like, hey,
I can hear none of it.
yeah, like I need to be able to capture what you're saying.
It's like he's over there talking on the other side of the room.
Right? It's like, who wants to listen to that? Like
No one.
No, and like
No.
I guess, I understand why people are nervous. It's you are, the center of attention, so to speak. But I really want to figure out how to do video. That's been kind of the next journey in this podcast. But I think I'm going to have a hard time with people wanting to actually be on video.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think people should get the fuck over it.
Yeah. Face their fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. The video stuff, like if somebody's nervous about that, it's kind of like, oh, it's okay. That's what we're going to capture.
Well, yeah, it's doing, I don't know. I feel like growing up too, and, watching TV or whatever, it was just this phony fakeness to it. And now all of a sudden in 2023, it's like people see through that bullshit.
Yeah, they just want to see it straight anyway.
Yeah.
And then now with the technology, with the TV technology, like all the fake phony bullshit, you can really tell it's fake. It's like I can tell that's a set. I can tell that's not real.
Yeah, and like the filters, and there was a period there in I think like around 2010 when all of the news, companies switched over to the higher tech camera, and everyone looked fake with
That's
powder
what I'm
on their
talking
face.
about. Yeah, so you can tell how fake they look because it's like so detailed. Like the cameras were so detailed. It's like you lost all the movie magic.
Yeah, literally. Yeah,
I heard it was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
This looks like a.
It's like this guy's got makeup on.
Yeah.
And you can really tell. It's like no one told him.
Yeah, it's like new.
Yeah, it's like they really had to filter all those. But no, before I started recording this, you asked me how many of these I've done. I think I've done 13. Which, that's just a drop in the pond. 13 podcasts ain't much, but it's something. I was talking to someone last night about it, and I'm like, I just got to keep going with them.
No, you can't do 100 before 13. You can't. You got to do 13 before you can get to 100.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's not like this is like my full-time job. I would love for it to be one day, but there's timing and sort of back to like, the fear of being recorded. It's I dealt with that too. It's like, who wants to listen to me?
Yeah, I think everybody should feel that way whenever they're starting to do things, like, the nerves about it all. But it's, you get out and you do it, and then you've done it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh,
yeah,
maybe people do want to listen to me.
Yeah. Or I guess part of it is like, maybe that's not even the right question to be asking.
Right.
It's like, it's not that people should question whether or not other people want to listen to them. It's more of like, what are you doing for yourself in that moment?
What are you expressing?
Yeah.
Expressing yourself. Are you really in this just so everyone pays attention to you, Michael?
Yeah. And it's not gonna...
Is it all about you, Michael?
Yeah. It's just not gonna... It's not gonna resonate with people,
Uh-huh. Well, it won't if you're trying. Isn't that a weird thing?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're trying to bend into a way that'll resonate with people, chances are it won't.
Mm.
You just do it because you just got to, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm feeling like the vibe to do.
Right.
And then it resonates.
Yeah, there's some...
Overthink it. Then
overthinking it for sure. For sure. I mean, like, I guess for you and I don't know how you feel about it, but I would say you're a musician, singer-songwriter.
Yeah, I like to say troubadour I like to say first and foremost.
Here you go.
As the singer-songwriter.
Yeah. So like for you then, like the first time that you got up on stage, do you remember that experience?
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah. It was I was a server in a spot called Fairfax in Bloomington, Indiana. And I had been playing guitar for a little while. As I say, a little while. I picked it up at like 15, 16 years old for a couple of years and sold my guitar for a car payment when I was 17. And then whenever I was 22, I picked up a guitar again, an acoustic guitar, to hang out with my friends, and they wanted to go camping and stuff. And I was like, they're like, we wish we knew somebody to play guitar. And I was like,
right.
I kind of play guitar. And so I grabbed an acoustic guitar, started immediately writing songs then. And then around that time, I was serving at Fairfax Inn,
Mm-hmm.
had a group showed up, Pam Thrash and Dave Kakalis, just a duo. And they had were up there performing, and my boss was like, "Hey, my server here plays songs. Like, you should let him get up and play something." And I was like, "Oh, this is embarrassing. Don't do that to me,
Yeah, for sure.
But then they were like, kind of dragged me up, and they were like, "Oh, go ahead and do it." And I sang like one of my songs that I had written, which is 1910. Like one of them, still play that almost every single set. But and that was that, and then her husband, that was Dave, the other guy on stage. He was like, "Hey man, kind of dug that, and he's like, I run an open mic night, up in Indianapolis every Saturday. If you show up there, it's like we give away $100 to like whoever wins, like whoever the most popular person is or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
And so I went up that Saturday, and I definitely wasn't the best one up there, but he still gave me the $100. And then I realized I was like, I can make money and play this.
Sure.
And that was like, so like I made $100 the second time that I ever played on a stage there.
Yeah.
And it was at Margaritaville, like was the spot.
Gotcha.
So
yeah.
Cheeseburger in Paradise. Sorry. Cheeseburger in Paradise was the venue there.
Mm.
So I made my first $100 in music at Cheeseburger in Paradise in Indianapolis. And then I realized that maybe I don't want to be a server. And I was, at the same time as I was a server, I was also a meter reader for the electric company.
Okay.
So I was like kind of doing both things. And then I was like, maybe one day I can just do music and forget about this other crap.
So it was never like the first plan for you. You were just kind of drifting around from jobs and then...
Yeah, it really was not. It was, I'd actually thought that up until that point, I thought, I was stepping my foot into the utility company.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, like the union jobs at the utility company, I was like guaranteed good life.
Sure.
Union job.
Security.
Yeah. But,
kind of a thing.
But very quickly, and I'd say very quickly, but I was there for a decade before I stepped out to, just do music full time. So I was there, but it was the union thing never came around for us, because right around the time that I was getting hired on as a meter reader, they started filtering out all the union guys and started doing contracting stuff. So all the guys are making $25 to $30 an hour doing the same job I was doing, and I was making $14 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, one day you'll get in the union, and no.
Yeah, just holding on.
And then eventually they're like, hey, we got these new computer systems, so like most of you guys that are working here today, you'll be gone tomorrow.
Right.
You know. But once I realized I could make a little bit of extra money doing that, then I was like, I'm gonna start. People like these songs, I'm gonna start writing more of them.
Yeah.
You know, do that sort of thing.
I'm just fascinated with musicians and their confidence, you know, like just the ability to like never really, I don't want to say security, but like you never know what next year is going to be like for you, right? I mean,
yeah, it's the goal is to try to get yourself a couple years ahead in booking.
Okay.
And that's the goal. I've never been able to accomplish that one yet. Still working on the goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely becomes you know, sometimes you're like 90 days out, you're looking at it and you're like, man, I feel like I'm gonna struggle this season.
Yeah.
You know, I'm looking at my calendar, and then all of a sudden things will kind of start trickling in, or you know, when you have big plans that you put out in like a year in advance, and then as you're coming up, somebody will call and be like, hey, we had some changes in ideas, so know, and this and that. So the you know, doing the gigs like that can be a little bit stressful, but I typically like to have my year planned out and have like my tours planned out and being able to look at it and being like, I know this is my guaranteed income.
Yeah.
And then I'll try to like,
it kind of calms you down a little bit to know like, okay, I don't need to worry about 5 years down the road, but this next year is good.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. Well, it's definitely like a stressful thing, you know, because it's a paycheck to paycheck job, just like any your standard you know, job. If you're not working today, you're not paying bills tomorrow.
Sure.
You know, sort of thing. So it's trying to keep it steady and trying to find, because there's so many artists out there. There's lots of musicians.
Oh yeah.
And in the world of booking gigs and things like that. So it's, you know, to try to find that. We were just talking about this yesterday. It's like easy money is like the cover gig stuff is what we call the easy money, but it's not necessarily like sustainable, like for like beyond like the easy money, like going out and being like, oh, I'm gonna make a few $100 to go, you know, play 3 hours to people that just want to hear bar songs, you know, things like that. And you know, that's kind of I don't know, that's like where your guarantees are, it seems, you know, but I got to expand beyond that and like go doing the touring and all that kind of stuff and try to attract new people to listen to the songs and things like that. And that's where it becomes a question mark, you know, because then it's like, well, I have 20 shows scheduled that take you across the country, and I get ticket sales. Yeah. So it's like, well, if people don't know you there, like you're working for free today, buddy. Yeah. You know, it cost you a couple $100 to be here.
Yeah. It's almost like there's really no easy way to do it. Like you have to grind. And
you have to go out there, but you're wasting your time if you go out there and you don't shake hands and kiss babies and figure, like, if you walk out there and it's like, well, we're spending $200 to be here. It's like, well, are you going to lose $200, or are you going to like invest that $200 into like making sure you meet everybody you possibly can, and try to spread, you know, your message, your word, you know, your music, sort of thing.
Yeah, and there's just no easy way to do it. You know, I think today people think, oh, you know, like I'll just, you know, sing some songs and, you know, put them up on YouTube and then I'll get discovered and then I'll be famous. It's like, no one's watching you.
It's not,
no one gives a shit what you're doing.
The reality of the growth to get a fan base is actually to get in front of that many people. Like, as in like, and you can't just like pop in and be like, I played a crowd of 10,000 and now look at me, I'm famous. It's like, no, like even if you did that, like, like there's gonna be 10 people that gave real shit out of that 10,000 that never heard of you before, and that's the people you walk away with that day. You know? And it's like, and if you go hide back and pretend like you're, you know, a star, like they're not gonna follow you. They're not gonna, you know, that sort of thing. You just gotta kind of get up in there with them a little bit. And, you know, at least, you know, in my experience as a artist in growth, you know.
Yeah, it's a constant state of getting after it. You know what I mean? Like you can't stop. So I think people might think that a artist or a musician, oh, they're just sitting around all day long, and then that, they work for that 1 hour or those 2 hours at night. And it's like, no, like that's actually the best part probably. And it's also, the most enjoyable part, but there's so much behind the scenes that you're not realizing that person's grinding and doing.
Oh yeah. Between creation, the creative part is really for me is actually probably the most, I like that the most. Like I like the writing because that's like my private time.
Okay.
And I like that the most because then it's like a construction worker where you wake up in the morning and you go to work and you see your progress. Yeah. And if I'm writing a new song, I get excited about it.
Yeah.
And then I get to see my progress every day on it. And then you see what else is coming up. And it's also like my time of true expression where like that's where I'm crying through. I feel like if lyrics are going to bring a tear out of my face and I'm like just telling my truth. Basically, my writing is so very personal. Like there's like each line probably just coming from my soul some way or another. And
that's good.
And so it's like but that's really I like that a lot. But that's a grind too, and it comes with its own kind of torture because like once it starts like. My songs will keep me awake for days, like because my brain will start memorizing the melody and memorizing the words.
Yeah,
and so I'll be laying in bed or I'll be talking to you,
trying to find that hook.
And in the back of my head is this thing on repeat because until it's memorized, completely burned into my system, like it attacks me basically, And but that's got its own. My wife understands because I'll be looking at her and she's like, "Where are you at?" And I was like,
"I'm not here."
I was like, "Babe, I got this new song." And so she totally understands.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love this, but like it'll keep me up for like 4 or 5 days of just on repeat in my mind, and there's no stopping it. There's just no stopping it. And usually that means it's a decent song, if that's happening for the most part. But there's that. There's the booking aspect of it all, the managing of the money of it, like a managing of your marketing and what you can and can't do or can and can't afford. And, anytime you can find it for free, you got to go get it, when it comes to marketing and putting yourself out there. The merchandising, creating, the merchandise and getting it in place. That's another job in itself.
Yeah.
Then, the logistical managing for touring and figuring out like where everybody's going to be, where we're going to eat, where we're going to stay, and what path we're going to take, what time we get out, what time we have to be, all that kind of management that goes into it. And then there's interactions with fans. The more popular you get, the more that becomes like a real like high demand.
Sure.
And it's all of that, and trying to communicate with everyone is probably like that's my biggest fail. We'll talk about lots of successes, but one of the biggest ones that is the toughest for me is the constant communication, because I'm the kind of person that like I'll get overstimulated, and then I'll be like I'll kind of burn out on that for a minute. And then it's like, hey, I got to chill out, and then instant regret. It's not like you're not really screwing everything up, but there's this whole instant like it's like, oh, I'm supposed to be communicating with others, and then it was like I can't. Yeah. I don't have the energy.
Yeah, you just burn out on it, and then trying to juggle everything that you just said in your head.
Yeah,
because it's not like you have a boss that's breathing down your neck,
right?
Telling you to, this is where you should be. This is where you go. You're making all of those chess moves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're trying to think ahead, and you're trying not to make the bad ones, and you're trying to get that king,
Right.
get the queen.
Yeah, with like absolutely no manual,
But, no. And on top of that, with operating myself as a family life, wife, 2 kids, and 14 and 16 right now, and doing that with her working and balancing the family life out too is tough, especially considering when I'm on the road. And we're in constant environments of
would you say like the party lifestyle? I mean, that's your audience. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're that, but your audience is.
But definitely, it sits a lot in the party lifestyle, which comes with its own struggles of, if I have too much to drink, or if I, try to balance all that out, sort of stuff. And, me and myself, I'm a smoker of marijuana, so I enjoy that. I enjoy that more than I do the alcohol. Mm-hmm. And then, but I'll go too far on alcohol sometimes, and then I find myself in deep depressions. It's not even screwing up and going and acting up and doing something dumb as it is just like, why did I do that?
Yeah.
And then it's like I told myself I would stop doing this, but they showed up and they're like, hey, how about a shot, Russ? And I'm like, nah, yeah,
sure.
And then I'm like, so like that'll wear you out and like bring your kind of levels down, your the dopamine levels, or like what, I don't know,
Sure.
But then finding the motivation through that, and I think most of the guys I know and girls I know out here that are like doing artistry are, if we're any of us that are out here struggling with those, like with alcoholism and things like that, that's very common in the industry here.
Sure.
It's very common, and it can drown you out pretty quick. And like, it's kind of like you get caught up in that. And then you got kind of this fake idea of what's really going on around you, and you think you're the life of the party, and everybody else is like, "We've had enough of that, dude."
Yeah, you can only handle it in like small doses, and I mean, like there's nothing. Well, there probably is something, but like it's sad to me, and I'm sure it's sad to other people to watch that person sort of just be dismantled and sort of now, rather than being like the life of the party, you're like the joke of the party, which for many people is just as enjoyable to watch.
Yeah. Well, see, that's what I was going to say too. And you said it's like a lot of people, it's interesting. A lot of people, like, it's the hen house of it all is what I like to call like the peanut gallery, the hen house, sort of thing. And there's, it comes a certain level where it's a spectacle of watching this person, and I don't know. I've had different feelings about that, where it's like, well, I used to idolize, some of these alcoholic, moves. Like I was big into, like Hank Jr. and Kid Rock whenever I was, early on in my songwriting, and I was in my early 20s, and I was like, I can drink a fifth of whiskey and still stand still, and all that, and that was like a goal, and like and party with my friends, and it's like go to, 6 to 8 guys going out to a campground, and we're buying, challenging ourselves by buying like 10 to 15 cases of beer, and being like, we can do it,
right.
and and we would,
and you probably could,
and we did, yeah. So it's like, but like, and that was, so then I got accustomed. It took me a long time to like not be the guy that just wanted a bottle of Jim Beam. Was like, I was like, oh man, like my influence, and even getting into the acoustic guitar and all that kind of stuff. He was a Jim Beam drinker, and so I was like, oh, I'm outlaw Jim Beam, like, and now I'm a rough character to some degree, I mean, I don't think I'm like disgusting or anything like that, but
sure,
but it definitely like put that lifestyle into me, and like I can undoubtedly still drink a fifth of whiskey and stand still, I still can
check
do it.
Mark,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Congratulations, but like, there's no one to pat you on the back for a good job.
There's no good job to that. They're like, oh, that's pathetic and sad,
right?
But it was going through depressions and expressing herself. So like, I wrote a lot of songs in that state of mind, and I would find it interesting to get myself to a point of, inebriation, and then write. And then I would be like, oh, the spirits are talking,
Sure.
But sometimes they were,
Well, I mean, it's no secret. I mean, there's plenty of people that are talking about how, either being super fucked up or super miserable, or that struggle is where like the greatest creativity comes from.
Yeah.
And it's such a dual, it's a really hard thing. And I guess like the follow-up question would be like, what is self-care to you, or has self-care been a struggle for you? And like, what's been your either approach to self-care, or like what's been like the shitty part about self-care for you, being a musician and not having that traditional security, lifestyle.
The my self-care is actually it came into fruition after years of alcohol abuse and trying to figure out what I was gonna do, and it was always last minute. Like I was like, oh man, and dated. There was a time where it literally was like a day to day. It wasn't a week to week, or where I would just be like, I have nothing. Woke up today and kind of lived inside of my truck for a while.
Right.
And I was like, man, and my whole family is like, well, you gotta have to figure it out, Russ. You need to straighten up a little bit. You gotta stop your drinking. And I was like, well, how am I supposed to stop my drinking?
When it's part of
it's fueling my
culture. Yeah.
It's fueling my it was fueling me. It wasn't helping me. Mm-hmm. But I was like, I'm writing about it. So it's like all of my fans were like, yeah, I play getting drunk and doing drugs. That was one of my songs, and that's like it's still a very popular song, and all that sort of stuff. And that's all about like coping poorly with a relationship, but but the mindfulness taking care of myself, the self-care started coming in, whenever it's like it just really was like kind of get to a point where I felt like I was just going nowhere. I was doing nothing, and I was gonna have to give up maybe. And then I started getting into like a mindfulness podcast, and things like that, where I was just like a 10% happier was the name of the podcast I started listening to, and that was I'd put it in my I'd actually still working in music, but I picked up a kind of a side job because I was slow on money, doing a construction and so I was like, all right, so I stick this mindfulness podcast in my brain while I was working, and started kind of opening my, because I've always been into philosophy and things like that, so it was like opening up my mind to philosophy, and I've always got a special interest in that like sort of stuff, and different, I can exist in any way I wish, and started kind of really guiding my mind a little bit out of like thinking about the party all the time, and started being like, man, I really need to straighten this out. I got a family I need to support, and then I got into stretching and walking, and like to where in the mornings I could go for a few miles on a walk, and then I realized like what happens when you start doing that. You start finding yourself a little more organized. You start finding yourself like, oh wow, like I feel really good about myself that I did this, and it starts to build your confidence up a little bit, and and for me, just expressing myself to the internet, even just actually expressing, just like if I'm going through something good, if I'm going through something bad, whatever it is, getting out there and being like, hey, this is who I am today. This is who I was last night. And be like, hey, hope you love me. I went through this a little bit last night. I'm 9 times out of 10 now you won't find me having drinks, and but I'm not a full recovery guy, so I was still like, I'll still go out, and I'll go out with the idea of, I'm not gonna have drinks tonight, and
then be able to stick with that, and feel pretty good, or
sometimes I do
in the moment,
sometimes like I said, 9 times out of 10 I'll show up and Pepsi it is, like I'll just have, I'll just kind of do that, but then I'll let myself slip out there a little bit and be like, you know what, I'm overwhelmed, and I'll choose to cope, and I'll be like, fuck it, let's do some shots, and then typically by the end of the night I'm like, why did I do that?
Regretting it in a sense. But I mean, like I would imagine for you, and not having like that traditional career, that like self-care, at some point you had to realize that self-care is everything for you. I mean, like because you are it. So it's not like you're waking up. I mean, like I would imagine for you, like Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays are probably, I wouldn't say slow, but that's not when you're performing, but you're still alive, and you can't just drink Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like all day long.
No, thank God I don't. I'm not that guy.
Yeah, but you could.
I very, very easily could. Like I very easily could be like, I mean, dude, it's like you said, it's its own lifestyle, and it has its own
demons and
pitfalls. They're out there, but the the self-care, like health food wise, is another thing,
Oh yeah, I didn't think of that. Eating shitty bar food all night long.
Bar food, because the bar food is the only thing that's free food,
right?
So typically it'll get you like a
cheeseburger.
You're catering if you're doing the bar band thing, and I prefer not to do the bar shows. I prefer like ticketed venue shows, but we still hustle out and do the things to get by to make the cash, sort of thing. So we find ourselves mostly in the bar scene still, and like that's what you get, or you get like gas station choices, and outrageously expensive food that makes you feel like total crap, dude. And like it's like there's like no cheap way to eat healthy.
Yeah,
and it's always hard to spend it's hard to spend the money. I guess there is probably a cheap way to eat healthy is like we just go buy some damn fruit.
Yeah, but it's hard. I mean, but there was this guy that, like, not to change the subject too much, but he was
go for it.
He was a construction worker guy. He was doing some work at my house, and I'm like, hey, like, do you want me to run up to Wendy's and grab you some burgers, for working or whatever? And he looked at me and he was like, I haven't had fast food in 15 years. And I'm like, whoa, like,
how do you do that?
Yeah. I'm like, how the hell do you do that? I was like in awe. I was like, oh, really? And then he's like, yeah. And then he like pulls out this like cooler, and it seems so stupid and simple, but like, yeah, he had like a
nice little lunchbox.
Yeah,
he's like, what do you mean? He's like,
he's like with fruit and vegetables.
Yeah, he's like, I got a peanut butter and jelly. I'm like, I'm ready, bro.
Yeah, I'm like, damn. I'm like, why couldn't I do that? And
right, cost him $3 to eat.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's. I wish. It's so funny because my ADD doesn't. I blame the ADD. Maybe maybe I'm just one of these people that just blames that all the time. But I'm probably the most like ADD person I know. Where it comes to like, I'm juggling, up
600 different things
up in my brain all the time, and everybody, and I'm sure a lot of people are. But if I'm the kind of person, it's like if it's not in front of me, I'm gonna forget it. So like if I wake up in the morning and I see like in front of me is some peaches and some oatmeal, and that's all. Like if I see that in front of me, I'm like, oh, that's what I want because that makes me feel good. But typically, I'm like, I don't get to that. Like I walk past, I'll forget breakfast. I'll forget. Like I'm really bad about I'm really awful. Like somebody's got to remind me, like, hey. Yeah, like you got to eat good. You got to eat something today.
Yeah, and you're really on to something, especially with like ADD or ADHD. Pretty much they're the same thing, to be honest with you. But like when I try to work with people that have that, I mean, organization, and I know it's going to sound corny, is the key. And not just cleaning your room and keeping a calendar. It definitely does. It does. But like there's been times, and like people might laugh at this, but like I've literally had to put a reminder on my phone to go pee.
Really?
Yeah, because like I'll go, like it'll be 2:30 and I've literally
not peed all day.
Hadn't peed all day long.
I'll do that too. I'll do that too. And sometimes I'll be like, oh shoot, I have to pee. Yeah. And then like it's like
it's too late.
And well, no, it's like I'm wet. No, and it's too late. How do you know? Well,
yeah, because my pee is orange. Like when I'm finally peeing.
Yeah, this is great. It's like it's got this amazing odor. It's like, oh, so you have had your asparagus today. That's good. That's counted. Like sometimes I'm like, what's that? Oh yeah, I ate healthy.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. But I mean, it's not good to hold your pee all day long. But that, for me and like the ADHD, like the self-care part, you get so wrapped up in all these potentially great creative ideas and stuff, but then you forget about just basics like eating, or what's that shit called? Water. Like drinking
water. I have to force myself to remind myself to do that too.
True.
And but it's a it really is a struggle, a strange struggle. But like I feel like it's like if you put me alone in an area for a while, like my chaos, like I'll slowly organize it piece by piece. Like if you,
that's the fun part,
right? So it's like for me, it's like when we talk about like, I really like it whenever like the house gets organized and like the room. You mentioned the room, and it's like it's so funny because it's like waking up and like making my bed. If I don't make my bed in the morning or whatever, like it's like that became like my first like that, like my first piece of confidence comes from that.
There you go.
And so it's like, and I feel like I got that up on the world. Not everybody gets up and makes their bed first thing in the morning. So but I realized like a lot of people, that was like one of my big steps of self-care was like that was my first challenge to myself when it came to being like, well, you're, I was like 30 some years old, and I was like, hadn't made my bed since I was a kid. I was like, who cares? I plop down in this piece of crap every day. But then like whenever I decided I want to start making that change, like I actually saw progress from like waking up and being like, first task of the day, make your bed. And like now I can't go past the bed if it's not made. My wife doesn't make the bed first thing or whatever. So it's like, I feel like I got that up, and now I can like pick on the rest of my family and be like, "Did you make your bed today?"
Yeah, there's something about the ADHD brain that's like it's motivated by organizing chaos. Yeah, and it's almost stimulating, because it's. I mean, from an outsider, when people look at folks that have ADHD, they're like, Jesus, like how does that person do all of those things? That person's just go. Yes, they are, but they're fueled by organizing that chaos. It's a superpower.
Yeah, I feel like it is too. I've always kind of felt that way. And my mom, whenever we were younger, before we didn't have the ADD title or whatever to it. Other than like I think it was kind of fresh in the 90s or so. And the doctors were like, "Oh, I think you might have this ADD thing."
Yeah, and it's a problem, and like we have to calm him down.
Yeah, and my mom was like, "Well, they want to put you on drugs," and she kind of gave me a little bit of a, "Well, how do you want to do it? This is your body, your life, kind of thing." Mm-hmm. And her take on it was like, "Well, you can harness this and you can organize this and find a way to use it to your advantage. Yep. Or you can, you can do these things that are going to help you focus, and, this sort of stuff.
It's going to slow you down.
Yeah. And at the time, there's mostly narcotics were the choice that they give you, Yeah. And so I was like, I don't want to do that. But I still find myself, wondering, and in all honesty, like, it's like, what am I, like, I've like had times where like, cause I get like manic depressed and stuff like that. And like, where I'm like, Mom, like, it's like, am I ADD or like where am I at on the spectrum? Like, it's because man, I've tried real hard, and then I still fall flat sometimes. And and she, but and then it's like, well, maybe if you treat it a little bit, like, it can kind of get it going. But I really enjoy who I am, even though. So it's like it's always a tough thing. Like my family at home, my son, all four of us, my wife, me, and both kids are ADHD. Mm-hmm. Either ADHD or ADD, whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because it shows up differently in females than it does in males. It's a whole other thing. And so we have different things. Well, my wife is now medicated for it, and she really loves that she's done that. And she's like, I wish you would do this, like, self-care, Russ, Yeah. But I'm still like, and my son, he takes medication like Coolbury or something like that's the name of it, and it's really like amazingly helped him at school, where like, and he's happy and all this kind of stuff. So like I'm starting to look into being like, well, maybe if I bump up into something different these days, because it's not a narcotic thing. It's like supposedly like non-habit forming or whatever,
Sure. But it's just like that element though, kind of like back with the alcohol and like what you were saying, that it's a fuel. And I just don't know if sometimes that the medications take that away.
See, I worry hard about that. Yeah. Like for me, I'm like, like I know I'm a mess. Mm-hmm. Like, and I know that like, but there's a part of me that's like, that's kind of like, well, I kind of like the emotional creature that I am. And I kind of like that, we all have, I think all of us in our lives have like certain traumas and stuff like that'll affect us, and it's all like different versions of it,
Sure.
And, we all go through great times. We all go through like tragic times. Mm-hmm. And so for me, like I'm kind of like I'll get lost in both the great and the tragic, So like if I don't know, I worry that it would take that away. And of course, like she's like, please treat yourself. Like she's like,
yeah, I mean,
she's like, you will be so much more successful and you'll be organized, And she's like, you won't lose who you are, Russell. Please listen to me.
Yeah, and to each their own. I mean, I don't think we're saying that like we're anti-medication or we're for medication, mm-hmm. but try it on, see if it works for you. But I think there is something beautiful and especially for creative people that like you have to have that sort of struggle to find those gems. Like that's where they're at. There's just no other way to get it. I mean,
there really is. And like, I honestly, I wholeheartedly believe that. So it's like my creations of music and poetry definitely like it's if I can put myself, if I'm in a place of like it's kind of, I don't know if I want to use the word trauma, but the like writing out of trauma and writing to express myself in a realistic life of the the unexpected. That's to me, that's like, I want to recognize that, and I want to really feel that when it's happening, so that I can like be like completely straight, honest about what's happening to like the human body at that time, and what's happening inside, and so for me, like I'm still like even when it came to like doing the drugs and doing drinking alcohol to a point of trying to find myself on another level, mentally or emotionally, like taking myself out of my brain and into whatever that is. It's still like it helps me. It helps on. It kind of writes itself sometimes of being like, well, I'm writing about this experience.
Yeah.
And the more profound the experience, the more the
more enriched like the writing becomes.
Yeah. And for me, like I do like profound experience, and I like being in a moment where I'm like, where I feel like I'm as close as I can be to I don't know, to whatever that energy is, and sometimes that energy like pull me into strange places.
Yeah. I think what you're saying too, and sort of tapping into from like a mental health therapeutic self-care way is like writing. And I talk to clients about this all the time. There's this cliche stigma around journaling, or how corny that is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's really not. It's such a simple therapeutic tool for you to put your thoughts and those experiences on paper. I don't know what it's magic. It's something about it.
I have a theory about that.
Oh, please.
Is as when it comes to writing and the value of that and the therapeutic value of it is because in my theory wise is that like what's inside of us, we can sit there, we can talk it out, we can feel it, we can visualize all these things, but once you're like your eyes and your visual body are watching you take what's inside of your metaphorical world or whatever you call inside yourself, and you're watching, you're literally moving it into your physical world, and you're taking those thoughts, and instead of being inside of your world, now they are in a physical world in front of you.
Yeah,
and you can store them however you wish there, and they no longer have to be like inside, taking up storage space inside your mind.
I love that. Yeah.
And so it's like, it's kind of, but you're literally watching it come, and that's my theory, is that like you are literally taking it from inside of your mind and bringing it into a physical world in front of you, and you're using your body to do that. So like I feel like you just your body's kind of recording that.
Yeah,
is happening as I'm seeing it, instead of like just imagining it, instead of imagining it.
Oh yeah, I mean, because like what would come to mind is like if you, and this is just like a hypothetical thing, but like if you feel and think that you're a piece of shit, like you're just a no good, shitty person.
Yeah.
If you wrote that down and looked at it,
think a little deeper about it,
I think you would, or on like the complete opposite, it's like you feel like you're a good person on the inside.
Yeah.
And you wrote down, I'm a good person. Does it really feel like that? Like it sort of makes it become real to you when you write it down. And that's that therapeutic journaling process and stuff. I think it's almost like people think journaling is, like some kind of like Anne Frank thing where, on this date, on this date.
You don't have to like,
it's not that.
It's for you.
Yeah.
So you don't have to like tell your story and like, there's no wrong way to do it.
Right.
Write down exactly what you're feeling and be it good or be it bad, you will find yourself having like these emotional moments in it. Like and then not only is there you get that out of it. But if you decide to divulge into like your past writings, like, you'll learn a lot about yourself whenever you get hindsight. Well, you get like hindsight whenever it's like, oh, because like I have, just page after page after page after page of, and like now I use my phone a whole lot, which I kind of regret because it's like, but I have it all and I can easily scroll to get to it, but it's all in this digital world. So it's like, I'm always nervous. Like I've got all of my old phones all like,
Oh, really? Yeah.
So I can go plug them in and I can, and my writing's in there and I'll do that and I'll forget what I went through. And then I'll come across like these, little poetry pieces or even a lot of times before it becomes poetry, it is just like me, it's just writing it. Like this is what's happening right now. Like I am having an emotional reaction. It's time to write.
Yep.
Like I'm having these deep thoughts. I'm having these scary thoughts. I'm having these great thoughts. And so I'll write it all down. And then, and I typically like to tag in one form or fashion. Someone gave me some advice early on in my songwriting. It was like, it's like, well, if you're going to be a songwriter and a troubadour, the troubadour's responsibility as an artist is to like mark your date in space and time, so that whenever someone else comes back and reads, they can find some reference to where like your space and time.
Yeah,
and to document that was like one of my goals. So I'll always like, for example, like see, I got my phone right now.
Yeah, sure.
The oh my goodness, my phone's been on this whole time and it's on only 2%. Oh no,
it's gonna die.
Let's see, it might.
Because again, like,
but if I go like, let's say here we are right now. The this was written the day before yesterday, and this let's see, good night, Miss Feinstein, 2023, born in the U.S. 1933, and that's Miss I think it was Dianne Feinstein. She passed away. She was like in the House of Representatives for like 30-some, 40-some years, 50-some years, whatever. But she was a big advocate for women's rights and things like that. It says, "I'm NPC. New York City is flooding 8 inches in one night." But it's like so hard, so fast it caught families by surprise with nowhere to go. And like it's like talking about what's going on. This basically is describing what's happening. So whenever, all at the same time, Dwayne Davis is in the car that shot Tupac Shakur when he was 25, is in the same like writing. So it's like I'm learning like that was that dude just got arrested for yesterday or the day before.
I saw that on the news this morning. So I was like, whoa.
So whenever all that, now that's not poetry. That's just like writing down like my news for the day, right?
Yeah.
But that'll convert. And started to find the rhyme in it all, and that could become a verse, or it's just the fact that whenever I go back and I look at my work, I'm like, oh, this happened that day, and where was I? Oh, I was so maybe I can start describing Port Clinton in my environment, and I can talk about like if this becomes something significant, what led from that, when it comes to like Miss Feinstein passing away, who was a beloved person in politics, actually. Like,
yeah, you almost will like find little themes and nuggets in your journaling, even though you're not aiming for that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And there's that one wasn't that deep, but if you go back in there, like I can probably scroll back for days, dude. I just do it all the time. It's the way, it's like how I keep up with myself. Yep. And I'll find myself in these moments of either bliss or darkness, writing that stuff down, and those are like those end up being like the moments that like become like songs that people are like, I love this song. And it's like
but you weren't like aiming to do that when you were writing it. It's really turned into your form of, probably your ultimate form of self-care, and being mindful and sort of organizing your own life, and in being in the moment throughout that journey, right?
Yeah, absolutely is. And what I find to be the greatest part of all that, but it is the fact that like we're all existing at the same time here. So whenever we're like, for me, like it feels like I just feel like I'm connecting in with the world that way, and like that's that. So it's like it's like, well, there's a lot of people that this affected, or that they recognized.
Yeah.
Like yourself, like even like I saw that was the guy was just arrested. He's been, it's been 27 years since that happened, and it's
it finally caught up with them, like there's no escaping
in our modern world. Like that's an icon,
right?
And an icon of so many good and bad things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It is.
So it's like we're gonna praise Tupac for things, but Tupac does some fucked up shit too.
Right.
Yeah. It's like but it was but it's interesting but that's my point being too. It's like oh man, like so like everybody that's that could be something that I don't know that you look back in time, and although I didn't put the date on there, I did make sure that I added like 2023 is in there.
Sure.
I made sure that I added like there was, but you'd be able to like look that up and be like, oh, he wrote that song on this day.
Mm-hmm.
Like what day would this guy get arrested? This Dwight guy, and it's like oh, he's dating back to this is September 30th, 2023.
Yeah, being able to sort of follow it.
Yeah, there's lots of things like my song Apathy Nation. What a storm! The house spun for hours as we watched in horror through our own device. It was the opening line to my song Apathy Nation. It's like that was the House of Representatives was like going around and around, and at the same time there's a hurricane in Florida, it's
gotcha.
like, so it's like, it's and we were all like watching it all on our phones and, sort of thing, so it's like the whole thing is just like, oh, so, and that was like, a significant, Trump was in office and all that kind of stuff, I think he was about to be in office maybe, or he was in office, but it was like the House of Representatives was all but it describes like, I don't know. It really captures the moment. At the same time, paints a picture of a house and spinning around in a hurricane.
Yeah. Well, and like the cool. Well, there's many cool things, but like the cool thing with journaling is like that's what you're doing is you are recording what you were experiencing in that moment. You know, and then it becomes a real source of strength for you when you can look back at it. But you have to start the process of it, So it's like you can't just journal, once a year. It literally has to be ingrained into a daily, a weekly.
I tell you, it's a great thing to do if you can do it daily.
Yeah.
If at the beginning of your day,
make your bed.
Make your bed, and at the end of the day, expressing yourself by the end of the day, your journal, or it can always be at any time during the day.
Yeah.
Is in like well. I sound, some shit happened this morning. Like, I want to talk about it. I want to get it off my chest, or just I'm having the feelings about, what happened when I was 7.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, man, I met a young man today. He's 7 years old, and it brought me back to the moment where I'm like, what happened to me? Was that right, or was that like? Is that human, or was like, do I need to be so hard on myself about something that I was taught poorly at this age? And because like you get an opportunity to like, life just gives you those kind of things.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, like just as you're saying it, I can think of 1,000 times, particularly with me working with people, and then with kids, I usually have those moments more where, like I'll be working with like a first grader, and then in the moment I'll just see either myself as a first grader or I'll see the first grader as a like full grown adult, or just that because it goes by so fast, just life does, and being able to journal I think is a great therapeutic tool.
I agree 1,000%.
So but thanks for coming in, bud.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You got it.
Hold each other close, walking in the rain. You were like a picture and not a frame. You were like the air and not a plane.
By the way, at The Wellness Project, we have merchandise. That's right, all mental health awareness themed products. We've got artwork, we've got shirts, we've got hats, we've got candles. We're gonna have one for like anxiety awareness, depression awareness, wellness awareness, which is actually out right now. That's right, you can get your own wellness awareness candle. What does it smell like, right? You have to come in and check it out. But if you hit me up on Facebook, or you can email me and I can give you that information. And thank you for your support.
There's a million places I could go, but so you.
If you get a chance and you're in the Port Clinton, Ohio area, stop by the Yellow House Bakery, located on Madison Street in Port Clinton, Ohio. The Yellow House Bakery is passionate about a few things: simplicity, accessibility, community, family well-being, and, of course, baked goods. They aim to connect by creating good-for-the-soul baked goods using only high-quality, simple ingredients. And each month, they also offer a new, unique baked good. And trust me, they sell out quickly, so make sure you get there early.